come to the office? Were you listening more?
What?
It says we're testing.
No, it was the last time.
Okay, I got you. I was gonna say word.
Miss Greaser just like intensely yelled at me because I'm not going to be here for the Veterans Day assembly.
You good?
Miss Greaser, she literally intensely yelled at me because I have to write a story on it. I was like, I'm sorry I have a doctor's appointment. She's like, you should have scheduled it around this. You knew we had to write a story. I said, I'm sorry I got sick. I'm not going to be here. And she kept talking and I walked out.
Huh?
For journalism.
Oh yeah, Greaser freaked out on me today too.
She freaked out on me.
Because
I'm sorry I'm sick. I'm sorry I have to go to a doctor's appointment. Miss Greaser yelled at me for not being able to come to the Veterans Day.
and Kaylee. Daniela and Kaylee.
She's like, you should have worked on that. And I was like, I have a doctor's appointment. She's like, you should have scheduled it around it. You know we have to write a story on this. You're not going to get any credit for it. And I was like, I have a doctor's appointment. I'm not sick. And she kept talking and I walked out. Sorry.
No, Greaser was from like yesterday. 7 laps. Doesn't even sit on the same table as us. She freaked out on me.
Bar, is that a legitimate Snickers bar?
There's 18 of it.
Oh, I thought it was like one big one. I was like,
I know.
How much was that? $10.
what?
Yeah, I know, right? One of these things over at Casey's is like $1.50. Or one, just one
I'm
stick.
gonna texting my mom because my mom like sent her like 4 emails.
Put it down.
Send her like texting mom like, Miss Gracer will not let me go to my doctor's appointment.
Oh, for retail market.
She just said, would you freak out in class today? We'll come down and figure out the start of class. We'll not be on the should not be on the desk. It should not be out. She was like, how am I supposed to know? She's like, somebody should figure it out. And she was like, no, but you never told me to get it out. I was like, I wonder why you live at home alone or a hoarder. You a hoarder? Yeah. Oh, they're a hoarder.
All right.
How many days of the week?
All right. Hey, first and foremost here. Okay, we had homework assignment yesterday. Hey, calm down. Okay, we had an assignment yesterday. Let me put it up on the board so you can see it. I
won't go.
Probably Miss Greaser. How long is it going?
I won't go.
Yeah, or me.
Mr. Ward. All right. So here's the assignment we had. It is page 284. We had problems number 5, 10, 14, 26, 32, 36. These are all like the imaginary number parts. And then right at the end, these 46 through 48, these are the ones where you're doing quadratics. And the big idea for this 46 through 48, I do want you to kind of draw a mock graph of that. So just draw a graph on your paper. You don't need graph paper for it. Just draw a rough scale where it's going to be, because I don't know where the starting numbers are going to be. The big idea that you're going to have to do with that is I need to know where that vertex is and where are you hitting some intercepts. It's kind of like what we did in class, Tuesday and Wednesday this week. So you will have to complete the square to those problems. So those are the types of problems we're going to try to practice one today. I'm going to do another example of how to do how we can do completing the square. The goal today, after we get done with completing the square, I want to do a couple examples. All right, I want to do a few examples of how we can potentially use this stuff. That's what we're going to go into. Okay, so we have some new topics to talk about. Questions, comments on what I gave you yesterday. Okay, this assignment, I'm going to make it due on Tuesday. Does that make sense? I don't know if the sub told you that. I don't know if I had it written down for him. I felt bad. Like I got back and I kind of looked at it and I didn't have anywhere where the due date was. I want it done on Tuesday, and that is November 15th.
Bless you.
Okay. So Tuesday, November 15th. Let's make sure that gets done then. If you haven't checked your grades, I think I have them updated as of yesterday morning. Everything was in there. So if you're missing anything, you can see that. It's like 1 assignment, 2 assignments. I went through everything in the grade book just to make sure that, if you were missing something or you turned it during a different period, I got it graded for you. That type of thing. I'll say the names of people who owe me something. I won't say what it is. I'll just say, you owe me something, you go check the grade book, see what you owe me. That type of thing. I don't think it was too bad. I think there's only 1 or 2 ones that were still up. But that one is due Tuesday. Okay. Questions on that? All right, good. So ignore this next part. This is for geometry. I forgot to put it on the board.
Did we get to see our test today?
yeah, I'm gonna hand those out so you can at least take a look at them, and we can discuss that. So, all right. So 141. Alright, Clemens, have you taken that test for me yet? No, I was gonna say, you still need homework, why don't you get that homework? I got homework. Because I want you to take a test for homework. I won't do it. So, alright, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna have you go, just go sit down in the hall. I'm just gonna hand out the test so you can take a look at it. We'll do a full review when you're done, but at least they get to take a look. Okay. Okay, hey, here's who owes me something as of right now for this class. Berkey, you owe me 1, just paid 188. No, got it. I don't know if it's your notebook. Hubbard's on the hall, and then Spencer, you owe me a credit. So, yep. Not you. I looked at the first name, I didn't look at the last name. You owe me something. A couple things. Make sure you look at one. I think everyone else is good, so there you go. So, all right, good work. That's not too bad. There's only a few missed assignments I can handle. All right. Yeah, sorry. Mike, about to give you a pan.
Well, I knew I was missing.
No, you don't.
Come on. I got that back in practice test.
Alright, here we go. Hey, I want these back. You do not get to keep them. Get rid of your cell phones. I don't want to see any cell phone out right now. You got to put them away, put them in your notebook, get rid of it. I don't want to see it.
Where's my Apple Watch with my fancy camera? You got Tammy? Okay. You got coffee?
I'll look it up. Hey, you want to send me that link by email today? Sorry. Because I want to take a look at that. Because that's the old. I want a camera on that.
Want a camera on your watch? I mean, it's not so standard.
I can already make calls, but I want to make faces.
How do you talk?
Usually what I do is I'll just take it off. So, I do, because right now, the phone, or the watch has always been able to make calls in text. It does, I want, they need text. You can either spell it,
I heard you like write it out. You like write it? That's how you say it. She was mad first grade too.
okay, Overman.
4 people.
Yeah.
Bell.
My new sweatpants. This is first time.
Mine.
You got them wet.
Oh.
Davis. And computer. All right. Hey, took a look at your test. Not bad. Hey, get rid of that cell phone or it's mine. No. All right. You can write your score down. You can do the math later. You can just look at your gradebook later. All right. Now, hey, here's the idea. We'll go through a formal review of this once everyone's done. I have 3 people that still need to take it, but I do want you to at least see your scores because I promise you that you at least get to see them, right? So it was usually just 1 or 2 points here and there, kind of ticky-tacky stuff, like, oh, you forgot to write the standard form, or hey, you graphed the wrong line because you didn't know where you were starting, okay, that type of thing, or you didn't realize it was supposed to be parallel versus perpendicular, or maybe you forgot the bracket. Some people they flip the numbers in the bracket when they're doing the domain arranged wrong, that type of thing. But that's the thing. Not bad scores. I think the average overall out of 47, I think the average was 42. Which is not bad. It's probably our best test we've taken. So that's not bad. There's some people that went lower than that, but it wasn't bad. Now remember, you have every option if you want to retake. You don't have to fail or anything like that. If you want to retake it, you just have to come in the morning or after school, preferably morning because I have basketball, and you have to go through the problems you missed. If you don't go through the problems you missed, you don't get to retake it. You have to do that with me. You just have to spend a minimum of 10 minutes with me talking about the problems you missed. But again, you have a week from today if you choose to retake it. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to take those back. We'll do a formal review once everyone's done. I'll put like the answer key up on the board. You can see kind of why I missed it, what the answer actually was. Because I know some of you like to see that, other than just seeing what your score was.
I'm surprised I didn't know what I was doing.
I didn't. I did very well. Actually, very well.
Next time by for 96.
96. Yeah, I better take it.
Very ticket. Not 96. Very ticket.
Okay. All right. Here's what we're going to do today. Somebody, what we're going to do is go out and get Hunger so she's not sitting out in the hall for the next 10 minutes. All right. Here's what I want to talk about today. I want to do one quick review of how to do that graphing problem on your homework. How to do one of those, because you guys had what? It was 46 through 48. I'm just going to pick a random problem from that section, so that way we can go through it and you kind of know what I expect you to be able to handle for that 46 through 48 on page 284. So I'm going to pick. Now, do you want an easy one or kind of a harder one? Harder. Okay. All right. 3x squared equals 4x. All right. So 3x squared minus 4 equals 4x minus 6. All right. So this is the example that the book has. The goal is to graph this thing, and to figure out where the vertex is, see if it has a minimum or maximum, that type of thing. Okay. Now to do this first, I do always like to figure out, does it have an x-intercept? So to do x-intercepts, I rearrange this thing. So I'm going to write like this. I'm going to write it in. I want to write it into quadratic form, so that's descending order. I don't like to have the equal sign in the middle. So I'm going to rearrange this thing like I did here, and now I'm going to plug it into the quadratic formula, which, if you don't know the quadratic formula by now, I don't know how you survived algebra 2, but positive 4 plus or minus square root negative 4 squared, and notice I put the parentheses around the negative 4. You have to spread the negative. Minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times the a. All right. So now, if we do this correctly, we can kind of see that, yes, we are going to get a negative number, so it's not hitting the x-axis. Technically, it's imaginary for the roots. So it's 4 plus or minus square root 16 minus 12 times 6, which is 72, all over 6. And you can already tell at this moment, you agree that we have a negative like root. So it's imaginary. We're never hitting the x-axis on this thing. Now, which direction is this thing going? Is it going up or down? Up. Up. How do I know it's going up? You look at the first number in front of the highest power, so the x squared term. That tells you if you're going up or down. Since it's positive, this graph is going up. So that means if I'm not hitting the x-axis and it's going up, that means it's got to be somewhere up here, some starting point up here, wherever it's at. Okay, I don't know where. We're gonna figure that out here in a minute, so I know how to graph. I do know where the y-intercept is, though. The y-intercept, if this is my function, 3x squared minus 4x plus 6, right? If you want to figure out the y-intercept, you plug zeros for the x's. 0 minus 0 plus 6, and I get the y-intercept is 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm hitting 6 on the y-axis. Does that make sense? Like how to graph this by hand? And the reason why I want you to graph by hand is I don't have any clue where your number is going to be. If it's 12, it's right at the top of the graph. So that way when you drop by hand, because we're only doing a few of them. It's not too bad. All right, so now that we have that, now what I need to do is figure out where the starting point is. So I'm going to go back to this original problem. 3x squared minus 4x plus 6. And now we have to complete the square. And this problem can be a little bit difficult because of that 4 in the middle and the 3 out front. So let's first step, when I complete the square, I need to move the 6 across the other side, so it's minus 6. 3x squared minus 4. All right. We get with the first start of completing the square. This, again, what we're doing here is we're trying to figure out where this bowl, this parabola, is actually going to start when we graph it. That's what we're doing this whole process for. So the first step, we move that 6 to the other side, so it's with the y, and the y is a 0 at the very beginning. That's with the y. Okay. So now at this point, I'm going to factor out the 3 here. And when you factor out the 3, this is the goofy part. you have to take the 3 out of both of these. I'm factoring a 3 out, not an x, but just the number out front, because I need to get this x squared by itself. So I'm taking out 3, that makes this 4 over 3. And that's a lot like the problem I think I discussed on Wednesday this week. We did a problem that was pretty close to this. Okay, questions so far on this problem? How I started it, how I pulled up 3, because I need the x squared by itself. Yeah, it's difficult because that middle thing is ugly, right? It's got that 4 over 3, it's ugly. Okay, so now that we're here, I need to take half the middle, which, by the way, half the middle, if you put a 2 on the bottom of this middle, that's 4 over 6, or if you just simplify that, because that's how I get half the middle, I put 2 on the bottom, it's just 2 over 3. That's half the middle term. And I need to square that. So what do I get when I square that? What's 2 over 3 squared? 4 over 9? 4 ninths. So that's what I get when I actually square that. Now, if you left it 4 over 6 and you square it, you have 16 over 36, something like that, which is fine. I usually simplify that if I'm taking half of it first. So I take half the middle, which is this, squared, which is 4 over 9, and that's what I'm adding here. And I technically have to add it to the other side, but I'm not just adding a 4 ninths to the other side. Because if there's a number out front of the parentheses, like this, you have to multiply them. Because that number, technically that 3, is actually being distributed through the parentheses. So it's not actually a 4 ninths that I'm actually adding to the other side. 4 ninths times 3, which is 3 over 1. These simplify. And so technically what I'm actually adding to the other side is actually only a 4/3. That's actually what that number is when I'm adding to the other side. Because I simplified diagonally before I multiply straight across. And that's the number that's magically going over here. Okay, questions, comments on how I do that? Half the middle, squaring it, taking times the number out front, and then adding it to the other side. This is really testing your knowledge on, do you know how to solve fractions? Do you know how to add them? Do you know how to divide numbers on them? This is something you need to get good at, because almost all of our problems in future sections will just be fraction after fraction. There's no way to avoid it. All right, so now that we're here, this side actually factors up really easily, because the way we made this problem, it's x minus, and then it's always just whatever half the middle is. That's what the number is going to be here, so it's actually just 2 over 3. That's half the middle. Or if you break this up evenly, it's 2 over 3, 2 over 3. And on this side, I need to add these together, so I need to get common denominators, which I'm going to put 3's on the bottom. So if I put the 3's on the bottom here, this is a 4/3. Put a 3 here, that's 18. And what's a negative 18 plus 4?
Negative 14.
Negative 14 thirds. That's how you add fractions. You just add the top. And so now I can read off what my starting point is. Because the starting point is right here. This is what we call standard form for a parabola. And from that point, I can actually graph that thing from what this is. So in fact, let me put this thing over here so you can see this. What is that? Y minus 14/3 equals 3x minus 2/3 squared, right? That's my quadratic once I simplified it. How I know it's in standard form? I always have y plus or minus a number on this side. It can be 0 for all I care. Equals some number out front if there is one, and then something in here. Okay? Your vertex, where I'm starting my parabola, is the number with the x and the number with the y, but I need the opposite signs of them. So what's the number with the x? So yeah, it's negative 2/3, so I need the opposite of that, which is 2/3. Okay, positive 2/3. What's the number with the y? I need a 14/3. I need the opposite of that. Positive 14/3. That's where the parabola is starting. So it's about 0.6 over, and 14 divided by 3 is a little bit over the number 4. It's like 4 1/3. Something like that, 4 2/3. So I'm going over, so if I'm kind of graphing where this thing's going to go, over 0.6, up 4 2/3. And so this is where my bowl is going. That's the start of the bowl, so it's going to go up this way. So that was over 0.6, so I go over 0.6 this way, which will be in this range over here. Using the spacing at the bottom correctly. Alright, so there's your bowl. And how I know this extra dot right here, how did I know that? If you draw like an imaginary line through the middle of your graph, right where the 2/3 is, questions, comments on anything we've talked about? Yes.
So, yesterday we were using the split square. Is that like?
That's complete the square.
That is?
That process that I just did there, where I drag the number to the other side, I take the number up front, I do half of the square, that's complete the square. Okay. The only difference here, I have weird numbers like the 4/3 and the 3s up front. Okay, that was good. Any other questions you have? That I don't know. Let me pull up kind of a note for you.
Each class is
10.
like
10. Round
30
up.
minutes long, something like that.
Okay, hey, let's do one more example. Now, here's the question. Do you want one of these again?
Just an easy one.
Just an easy one? Okay.
Quick and easy.
Quick and easy, let's go. Okay, I got one. Okay, so here's the other one. We'll do one more of these exactly the same way. I'll just pick an easy one just so you can see it. Just so you get all the aspects and I'll go through this. So this will be my last example today. That way you kind of know how to do it. Okay, so my example, x squared minus 6x plus 10 equals 0. The first step, I do want to graph this. This is quadratic. I'm going to do the quadratic formula to see if I can actually see what number it actually hits. I don't think I can factor that thing apart. There's no way I can make the 6 in the middle from the 10. 10 is like 1 and 10 or 2 and 5, and there's no way I can make 6 in the middle. So it's non-factorable. But let's actually do the math here. So that's x equals positive 6 plus or minus, because again, how that always works, it's always the opposite of the b number. The b number is this, the negative 6. A is a 1, c is a 10. All right, so negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c. This is all over 2 times a. Okay, questions on how I set this problem up? All right, so let's keep going here. Let's try to see kind of where this thing goes. Let's see if it turns out to be negative so I know if I hit the x-axis or not. If this number doesn't turn out to be negative, that means I'm actually hitting the x-axis at like 2 spots. That can happen. So, because it would be plus or minus, so there's actually 2 hypothetical numbers there where I can actually hit. So this would be 6 plus or minus, what is that, 36 minus 40. So yeah, so this thing, that thing is most definitely imaginary. We get a negative square root. So yeah, so we're definitely not hitting the x-axis here on this particular graph. We'll come back to the graph, but anyone know where the y-intercept is going to be on this particular problem? Yeah, it's at 10. You can see that like right away when you first look at the problem. Because if you were to plug zeros in, you get y's at 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're hitting 10 somewhere. Now is it going up or down?
Up.
Does it work? Yes, it is. Sure. Okay. Joni, you're recording. All right. Okay. So we hit 10. It's going up, so I know that it's not hitting the x-axis. So the starting point is somewhere out here, going up. I'm hitting 10 on the y-axis, but now we have to complete the square of this thing. And the good news is, for completing the square on this problem, is that, yeah, there's no number out in front of the x squared, so I don't need to factor out any number, like I did with that 3 in that last problem. And it's an even in the middle. That's a nice, easy problem. So, so the first step here, let's move that 10 across. So it's negative 10 equals x squared minus 6x. I don't need to factor out any number in front of x squared, so that's nice. So now we can just kind of get to the nitty-gritty work here. Half the middle, 3 squared, 9, and that's what we're going to magically add to both sides because there is no parentheses there. I don't need to worry about multiplying by a number up front. There is no number up front. So I'm going to add a magical 9 to both sides. So this left side over here is actually what, a y minus 1. That's kind of nice. That side actually factors apart to be x minus, and it's what, 3 and 3. Okay, break that up. And it looks like my vertex on this particular problem is 3, 1. Those are the opposite numbers for the x and the y. So that's where the start formula is going to be. So 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 3 over 1 up. And this is where over, so that was over 3 up to 10. There's the full stone. Going up. It was really close to x-axis. How I knew where this other dot was is if you draw the imaginary line here, this was over 3 from the imaginary line, so I go with 3 this way. So there'll be 6 counterstones with others now. You should always have a minimum of 3 dots you can graph. If it hits x-axis, then you have 5 dots, because you have 2 x-axis numbers, you have the vertex plus the y-axis number you'll hit. Okay. Rest time is yours. You can work at your own pace, work at your own stuff. If you owe me something, make sure you're working on that. Let me go through, I know I already went through the names, who owes me something. I need to see if there was one attempt to do that.
Might as well wait for Nick to have it.
Yeah,
181?
See what?
188.
The one I did have it, yeah, I know it turned it
These are my work sunglasses.
Yes,
These
it
are my
was.
work
Put your name on it and
sunglasses.
turn it back. I figured, because when I saw you only missing one, that's weird.
Yeah.
Connor, I'm gonna forget my work experience.
Make sure you have attitude.
Yeah, give her
I already
attitude like
have
that.
attitude.
What did you say? Throw it in the basket.
She's like, okay, forget your book one more time. I'm like, okay, this is the first time I forgot my book. And she goes, well, don't forget it one more time. It's attention on nothing. And I go, okay, all right.
I said we should
Or,
have
all right,
started
whatever,
retire.
like that.
No problem. Just plug your all the essential lines. Check my
I'm
website.
pulling a sharp right now. She's like, don't give me attitude. I'm like,
JC,
all right,
I'm
whatever.
limited to how many characters I can type. So if you need to know like what all the numbers are,
I thought it was.
so send it all up.
That's better than funny.
And then that's the same thing. So just go to my website to see like what the assignment pages
Yeah,
are.
that's, if these are like $1.50.
Where would you find them on the website? Last time I
You
checked.
go to PreCalc.
Yeah.
You go to like PreCalc in the drop down, and then
We're
you
gonna
click
check
on what
it.
section.
Like,
Oh, you'll see homework from section 2
Oh,
to 3.
right.
Page 28. Because the JNC will tell you what page. So figure out what section that is, and you can go on the JNC and kind of look at her on my website and see what sections are, because the homework will be on every single one of those sections.
Jack, did you watch the game last night? Only second one I've been able to watch on TV this year.
Were you able to watch it?
Okay, here's a question.
I still work.
What is that monstrosity you have there?
It's for retail marketing. They didn't believe me that they had it. You could buy it.
That was a legitimate like candy bar?
No, it's just split on the side.
Oh.
It's 1 yard. $10.
Because I know that during like Christmas time they sell those Snickers and Reese's where they're like 2 pounds. Super gross.
Gross.
I was imagining that thing as one candy bar.
It takes forever to eat it.
Oh, after the first game, sick.
I bet you could win money for eating that in one sitting.
Well, usually if they have something like that where it's really big, what you do is you use that for like a party, you cut it up.
Yeah. Or you could use it to like bake a Snickers cake.
Yeah,
Or just put it in ice cream.
Yeah, it'd be a lot cheaper to buy it like that.
You and me are
Security by Mars. Connor, this
Are you still making fun of me?
yeah.
Mars bar.
It says security at
Text me whenever. Call on.
International candy. Or not international.
430.
And then one off of that.
8598.
Our national.
Everyone's on the
Yeah,
ground. Literally everyone.
They use moon
All
rock
four
for
of them are on
their
here.
Time. It'd be interstellar, not powder.
430.
Whatever he said.
430.
Thank you.
8598.
Connor, all I say is
That's where I, yeah, that's it.
It will not be open.
Okay, hey, just a reminder, we have that veterans program after 4th period.
Don't miss it.
Okay. Sure. Hey, the big idea is that during your next period, they're going to talk about like how you're supposed to handle yourself down there and stuff. So I'm just kind of pre-warning you. Every teacher will kind of warn you and stuff. Just be respectful. So that's my
why you got called the office.
I'm just gonna not
Jack,
sit
why
in
were
that
you
class
giving
later.
them the see that, baby?
What? I had to give him my keys.
Jack.